So if you don't have some paper, you can grab some so we can do some kind of what we're going to do mind mapping later. Or if you see here on what I've provided on my slides, hopefully everybody can see them. If you can't see them, please text Judy or I or and everybody. But if you go to gritandflow.tools, I have all the resources I'm going to be discussing today. I've created links here, so that should help you be able to access those. So we're going to go through a lot of material. The first thing I'd like to know, if you could answer this in the chat box, do you have a LinkedIn profile right now? So just put yes or no. Well, we'll do that right now. So I think we're kind of 50-50 from what I can tell. So we're not going to actually go through the process of setting up the account. I thought it would be best if we spent more time kind of talking about what goes into that account. So we'll talk about some resources that are available for you to get that going. First of all, I'd like to introduce my company. I have a company called Grit and Flow, and our mandate is to guide the path to workplace inclusion. And we do this by working with companies to help them understand what they need to be, what to do to be more inclusive employers for everybody. This includes how they hire people, how they manage people, how they recruit people. I also do a lot of job development training. So people that are trying to create jobs for you, I train them how to talk to the businesses. And then another aspect of Grit and Flow is what we do is our community service, which is providing seminars like this to help individuals that are looking for jobs that are neurodiverse or differently abled. So that's really important to us. A little side note, I am a mother. I have a son who will be 19 next month, who just graduated from high school and will be attending college. He was diagnosed with autism when he was 2 years, 4 months. And so I've been through quite the adventure. I was the CAC chairperson for Irvine for about 8 years and put on resource fairs. So you might have seen me around with the Empowering Irvine Families resource fairs. So I've been around for a while, but now I mostly work in the adult transition community in the employment arena. I'm currently getting my MBA. Sorry, not my MBA, I'm actually getting my PhD, all focusing on inclusion research. So today we're going to talk about strengths-based LinkedIn profiles. Why is strengths important? Strengths are important because they really identify with who you are. And when you're using your strengths, you're going to be happier. When you don't do something you like, your well-being goes down. Now, there's going to be a progression in life. You're not going to get the first job. It's not going to be that ideal dream job. We all have those jobs we start out where we're getting our experiences. I was a grocer. I would pack bags at Vaughn's. That was my first job. And one time I think I folded about 8,000 boxes for a florist. But we start out with jobs, and getting those jobs are all steps where we're learning essential tools to being able to work. So, but what we really want to do is get our dream job where we feel we're working and we're in an experience, and it's like you're getting paid to do what you love. I mean, that's ideally what we want for people, and we call that well-being. But to get there, we have to start identifying our strengths and our passions and try to attract the attention of people that are also looking for people with those strengths and passions. So that's really what we're going to try to focus on today as we look at our LinkedIn profile. So I talked a little bit about us already. We do community consulting and research. Just try to keep it real diverse, but we really like to be part of the community. It's important to us. So why LinkedIn? Well, passions, abilities, experience, strengths. Those are the things we're trying to put into our profile. LinkedIn is the #1 networking for work. It is not social media for posting how you're feeling today or posting pictures of your dog or anything like that. It is a professional network. And if you aren't professional on LinkedIn, people will block you. And sometimes they'll just plain out send to all their contacts that this person said something inappropriate. So you need to be very careful about your communication and what you post on LinkedIn. There are a lot of people on there that their whole purpose is to hire people. And they look for people with certain types of keywords in their profiles or experiences, and they go after them and they ask them to apply for jobs. And there's complete robots that go through these systems. And they do this. So that's why it's so important that you spend the time to put into your profile, because you want to catch attention of people looking at it, but also these robots that are going out there and automatically telling somebody that, hey, you know, Tiffany's out there and she's really good at this. We need to try to get her to apply for this job. So that's why LinkedIn is so important. So this picture is kind of bridging the gap. So we're bridging the gap right now between a lot of you moving from having maybe some gaps in your experience or having no experience into trying to make a full flush profile. So once again, I've added everything to the website. So if you have any problems, let me know, but it's all up there. You're going to see this sign. This is my little star. I put this on the pages where I have a resource that I put online. And this is that way you don't have to worry about trying to jot it down real quick, because it's on my website under the tools section. So there's a lot of great information out there, and I really believe I'm trying to provide as many resources as I can. But everything we do at Grit and Flow is research-based. So some of the things I'll be showing you are actually empirical studies that have been peer-reviewed that I'm going to share with you and that you can apply to your life. A lot of times there's a lot of studies that go on and there's so much research out there, but no one's telling everybody what they've learned from it. And you know, everybody in the world, they're just telling the other researchers. So what we're trying to do at Grit and Flow is really share that information with you. So a lot of that has come into this presentation. But let's start. Get ready in your chat boxes. So I have a question for you. I got 4 questions, all right? So I want you to try to guess the answers to these. The first one is, a famous person who was defeated 7 times while running for political office. Who do you think that was? Go ahead and put it in the chat box. So when I start singing, do 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 do. All right. And the answer is Abe Lincoln. So Abraham Lincoln was defeated in 8 different elections. Yet he persisted and he succeeded in becoming the 16th and one of the most respected presidents in the United States. So just think about that. You know how long an election is? I mean, it could be a year, it could be months. You're going to go through a lot of job applications and you're not always going to get the job. But every single time you go through a job application, you're going to learn something about the process, about how to talk. You're going to learn maybe what you could have done different or you could do better. So like Abe Lincoln, we could take all these, what you thought was a failure, and make it a success, because he eventually applied what he learned and became a very influential president. So next is a cartoonist who was told by the editor of the Kansas City newspaper, "It's easy to see from these sketches that you have no talent." Do, 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 do. Anybody other guess besides Judy? Patrick Kaplan? Okay. Are you agreeing? Okay. You got some smart people in this group. Walt Disney. He was told he had no talent and he was fired from his newspaper job. He wound up doing volunteer work for a church in an old rundown garage. One day he decided to sketch one of the many mice that were running through the garage. This mouse became the famous Mickey Mouse. Isn't that crazy? What's become of Disneyland? Everybody knows Disney as not even a person, it's just such a big entity. So, you know, people might tell you have no talents, but that doesn't mean they know what they're talking about. So you need to believe in yourself and never give up and persist. All right, next we have, okay, slides, there we go. A famous author who lived on welfare for years in an apartment infested with mice. Who do you think this is? Five, four, three, 2, 1. J.K. Rowling, the author of Harry Potter series. She lived on welfare for years in an apartment infested with mice and was rejected by 12 publishers who are probably all fired, have no jobs or futures, and is gone on to fame and fortune. I mean, how many people's lives have been impacted by her novels and her movies? But rejected 12 times. But look at it, she persisted and she kept going on. So don't give up. See your vision through. Find the people that will believe in you. Okay, this is a good one. A famous athlete who was cut from the varsity basketball team his sophomore year in high school. I don't know. I'm not much of a sports person, but they're pretty good. So ready? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We had somebody get it right. Michael Jordan, that big guy. Angry and embarrassed, he began to get up early every morning to practice with the junior varsity coach. Eventually, and I forgot age there, not only made the varsity team, but he also became one of the most popular athletes in the world. This is a quote from Michael Jordan. I have missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I have lost almost 300 games. On 26 occasions, I have been entrusted to take the game-winning shot, and I missed. I have failed over and over and over again in my life, and this is why I succeed. So take that to heart. What you may think is a failure today is going to be your successes tomorrow. You just can't give up on yourself. And if you really want something, you need passion about it, you need to practice. You need to get input from those that you respect to do better at what you want to do. Pull in those trusted resources, pull in those parents, pull in those mentors and advisors, and have them help you practice. Help them see what you could have done differently on that shot you took. And next time you might just make it. So that's kind of where we're going to go with this. So we're all about positivity today, okay? I am a big believer in looking at the glass half full. There's this thing called positive psychology, and it's not about being all happy all the time, but it's about looking at something and trying to see the benefit, the better side of it. So that's what we're going to really focus on as we go through this. So let's start with LinkedIn. I talked about it already a little bit about how it's really an important networking tool for businesses, for finding jobs, for applying for jobs. My whole business is pretty much based on LinkedIn. I've been able to get connections that have gotten me all over the world. I've been able to go be on boards and talk about diversity and inclusion for neurodiversity in New York. I've been able to go to different companies. I've been up to Stanford to do things, and a lot of this all started from LinkedIn. And just being able to reach out and be comfortable talking to people. So this is a really important tool. So one of the links on the Grit and Flow tools page is this LinkedIn Learning, getting started with LinkedIn. So I don't want to spend our time today going through something that Microsoft has already perfected, which is how to get your LinkedIn profile set up. But I would definitely go through this video. Once again, it's on the Grit and Flow website. Or you can just go type in on any browser, LinkedIn starter video. So, but they go through it very nicely. Also, online at any of the Microsoft stores, they put on this Rocking Your LinkedIn Profile. They're free seminars, and they put them on right now virtually, and then when the stores open back up, you actually can go in there and do them. But they provide a lot of free courses on doing, getting this set up in the right way. And an important part about LinkedIn that we're going to talk about briefly is your picture. So, you don't want to have a picture of your dog. You don't want to have a picture of, you not wearing sweats. This is your professional profile picture. So you want to make sure you have good lighting, that you're dressed appropriately, and it's a face shot. So a lot of times, individuals that are transitioning from what we call traditional social media, like Facebook, Instagram.
No way!
But look, here's
no way!
Mr. Lester, you're unmuted. There you go. So it's important that you get a professional picture in there and you're wearing something nice. We're going to talk about how to communicate on LinkedIn as we go through this. We're going to talk about how to build our accounts on it, but really it's important that you have a professional presence. So get your suit on, get that lighting right on your face, and take a good picture. If you are in the Microsoft stores, they will go through and actually do your picture for you. They have one of those big lights and they can get you all set up and they'll help you go. So the Microsoft stores are a great resource for this. So I was going to, you give me a second to share the correct screen, show you my LinkedIn profile. And it just likes to disappear. Okay. All right. Oh, I don't think I shared the right tool. 1 second, please. My mouse is not working. All right. So,
Tiffany, do you want me to just bring it up?
no, I've had a couple boxes open that were being a little difficult, so I think I figured out my problem here. All right, let me make sure that I'm sharing the right screen. Apologize for that, everybody. Okay, so can you guys see the LinkedIn? Welcome to your professional community.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So this is what it's going to come to when you're trying to sign up for it. So you can use your Google if you have it, search for jobs, learn new skills. But when you do come in, this is what my page looks like when I come in. I have my view profile here, my professional picture. I have some information I want to grab people. I'm a premium member. That means I pay to see who's looked at me and be able to communicate with people more. It's a little pricey for the average job seeker. It's about $59 a month, but you can do it free for a month. So if you're really looking hard for a month, you can do the free membership and go into it. But if you're running a company, it's kind of essentially you have it. But you can go through your whole feed of all the people you follow, and there's a lot of great stuff. You can get into network, notifications, home, and you can look at your own profile. So this is kind of what LinkedIn looks like. And so we're going to go through this today, and I've taken out pieces of my profile for us to get through and use it to help kind of make sense of this all. But this is kind of what your LinkedIn would look like when you're on the site. So let me pull up the presentation again. All right, you guys all see the big LinkedIn logo now? Yes, okay, thank you. I saw a face going. All right, so let's talk about the hiring game, and it has become a game because now what do we have? Robots everywhere. So what do you need to know as a job seeker? These are very important. OPTOMIZE your ATS. ATS, more acronyms, how dare they? But it's the applicant tracking systems. These are the bots that go through all the different LinkedIns and Facebooks and everything else, and they look to see if you have what they're looking for. So when you're looking at a job, we're going to talk real quick about the job description. So when you go look for a job, there has to be a job description, and this tells you what they expect for you to be able to know before you start the job, learn after you start the job, the conditions they expect you to work in. Now, all these feed into what their applicant tracking systems are looking for. So when you're looking at a job description and you're trying to apply for it, you want to make sure you find the keywords that are in that job description and put them in your resume and in all your profiles. Because these applicant tracking systems are looking for those words, and those words are what's going to be able to attach you to that job and pull you out to look at you as a candidate. Okay, so once again, job descriptions are so important. So when you're looking at a job, print out the job description, go through it, highlight all the keywords. It might be like Microsoft Office might be one of it. It might have competencies like critical thinking, whatever it may be. You highlight those words and then go back into your profile and make sure you write to these words. And we're going to talk about using verbs and action words doing it, but that right there is the key, because that's what these systems are looking for. And to be honest, that's the way everybody's doing it now. I mean, before you could go in and you could hand your resume in and your great smile and you might actually get somebody to call you back. But now a lot of the companies are doing this internet-based hiring, and it really doesn't matter if you walk into a store. You have to get through their systems, and that is not good for people who don't have a lot of experience or that aren't, you know, really good at selling themselves. So if you take the job description and you're able to really identify those parts, you'll have a better chance of getting flagged and get connected with a recruiter at that point, okay? So jobscan.co has some good resources, and that's where I got this from. So we get into algorithms. So first you got to get seen. So hiring isn't like, okay, that person looks good, let's pull them in. They go through and they gather, and then they sort, and they gather and they sort. And a lot of times they'll automate rejection. Say they're looking for only high school graduates. They'll go through your LinkedIn profile, and a lot of times you can actually go on a site, like I think Staples has it, and you can submit your LinkedIn profile as the application, and it will upload that application into their system. But if they see that you don't have a high school education, they might automatically reject you and put you in the other pile, if that's what they're looking for in their job description. So, you know, there are other things they're looking for. Now, there are institutional and systematic biases. What does that mean? Well, it's looking for the traditional average Joe, and we are not the traditional average Joe person. We are unique individuals, and our qualifications are not going to be traditional. Our work experience are not going to be traditional, and our education may not be traditional. So what I mean by this is they may be looking for a 4-year computer science degree. Well, that might not matter if you have a 4-year computer science degree if you are fluent in Python and you can do assembly language. So what does it matter if you have a 4-year degree? Does it matter that you have the skills that you need? So that's one thing that like GritInfo is trying to do, is change organizations to stop looking for this big category thing that really doesn't mean anything besides you can accomplish, you know, 4 years of college, which is a huge thing. But really, what skills do you have? Some people are traditional learners. They don't want to go to college, but they are able to have the same skills as somebody that did. So a lot of these tools don't take into account that non-traditional learner or that non-traditional employee. So that's one thing we need to battle. And that's one thing that we're trying to do through the groups Judy and I are part of. Another thing is, you know, vendors claim that technology can reduce interpersonal bias. It can in some ways. Okay, so here's the good thing about technology for us. So some people can go into a room and they can work that room like no tomorrow. I call them like the bada bing guys. You know, they come in, they're connecting with you, they see a picture of a soccer player, they're able to start a whole conversation about the soccer player. They're making the person interviewing them feel real comfortable. You know, that's called what we call impression management. And that's something that not all of us are good. Now, if I'm in sales, that is a pretty important skill to have. But if I'm going to be a data analyst, or if I'm going to be a baker, does it matter if I can come in and shine you in the room and get you just to like me by talking to you? No, it matters what skills I have. So when you're looking at these systems, automated systems, the people that have that charismatic attitude when they get into things and may not have the skills are actually getting cut off from jobs now because they're looking at what you can actually do. So there are some good things to this, but also there's some bad things. Another challenge with these algorithms is who they're sourcing the talent from. So what we're trying to get people to do is to look at other sources besides going to maybe only universities to post jobs, or only going to the Wall Street Journal, or only going to the LA Times or Indeed, whatever it may be. We want them to also go to sites that are for neurodiverse individuals. They want them to send the resumes out to Goodwill of Orange County. We want them to send the resumes out to the Department of Rehabilitation, or resumes, excuse me, job requests, openings. So the problem is right now is these technology solutions are going through the traditional ways to find a job. We need them to look beyond that to where we are, neurodiverse individuals, and make the jobs available to us too, because we just don't know they're there and they don't know we're there. And so that's one problem we're trying to solve. So, you have to be active right now, letting them know you're there, because they are not going to come to you with these jobs based on what you're usually doing. Hopefully that makes sense. I'm going to give it a second. If you have any questions, please type them in. There's a lot of information I'm giving you on this one slide. So please ask any questions if you're not quite getting the gist of it all, or we can have a conversation tomorrow if you need to. So another thing that these algorithms are doing is they're having you do assessments online. So a lot of times, I know this happened with my son, he works at Target. He applied for a job and they actually took him right into doing some tests there, and they asked him these integrity tests and just a couple different things, but he had to go through all these things. And what we're finding in the research is that, one, some companies are using tests that really have nothing to do with the job. And the second thing we're learning is that some of the tests are actually biased towards individuals that are neurodiverse. For example, like there's the 5 personality factor personality test, which is a big test about, you know, if you're introverted, extroverted. We're finding that people with neurodiversity who take these tests are coming out with completely different results than somebody who doesn't have that. So you really can't use it for a valid measure. So right now, these tools that they're using are not necessarily friendly to all different kinds of diverse populations. So there's, once again, good and bad with these. So what can you do besides, we talked a little bit about the keywords, but when you put your resume out there, to keep the formatting simple, use Word, don't do a PDF. They're easier for them to scan and trace. Once again, keywords, and I'm going to give you some of those keywords in a minute. Services, there's Wordle and TagCrowd. They're just online, and you can go through and they'll kind of help you with finding keywords for your resumes. Use the acronym. So if you were, say, talking about applicant tracking systems, you would put applicant tracking systems and ATS, because you never know if the computers are looking for ATS or applicant tracking systems. So always put the acronym and the actual words when you're doing this. Ditch the career objectives section. Out of there. Don't waste your time putting it in there. Instead, do a qualification summary with the keywords for that job. So this is what I'm saying is, for every job you go after, you're going to pretty much be having to customize your resume when you can, because you want to make sure you hit the keywords as you go into that system. So if you're putting in a resume into Target, you're putting a resume into JP Morgan, you're putting a resume into Best Buy, all those need to be specific to those jobs as much as you possibly can. And that's what makes it challenging in an overall profile on LinkedIn, is because you have multiple options. Yeah, imagine that. Spell check's a good one. I highly recommend it. And Grammarly, one of my best friends. So here, and I put this link on my website, these are all resume keywords that you should look at using. Scheduling, construction, governance, supply chain, hardware, you know, they're big words, but they mean something. You know, you don't want to be loosey-goosey about what you're talking about. You want to be very concise. You want to talk about what you've accomplished. You don't want to be real flowery. So these words can help you really put in what you've done. So this is on this jobscan.co website, and that's also, once again, on the website. So some other important things to remember are soft skills. Now, we always talk about, with neurodiverse people, you know, social skills, which are soft skills, but this is a little bit different, but there is a lot of overlap with soft skills and social skills. So soft skills are not traits you just have, like I'm a programmer, I'm a runner. They're the way you interact with people. So we're going to look at the top 5 soft skills that, and this is all from LinkedIn Learning. So creativity. So these are types of things, and the reason I'm letting you know about these is because these are what employers are looking for. So you need to go on, make your resume and your profiles and make sure if this has something to do with you, that you talk about creativity. So they want people to be able to look at problems across business roles, even if it's software engineering to human resources, and they want you to be able to be creative. So it's kind of thinking outside the box. And I know with our population, we are out of the box, and I think that's great. So we are creative individuals. I can't get that word out right. Individuals. So put that in there. It's an important thing. Persuasion. I know you teenagers are all really good at this. So, and if some of you adults in here that are doing it, you know, you need to be able to effectively communicate with people. You need to be able to persuade people to go along with what you think is important to do. So when you're leading a group or you're working in a team, you need to be able to defend and persuade. So that is prove facts based on something that interests the person that you're talking to make them see your point of view. So that's having the ability to look at the person you are talking to, know what's going to interest them, and putting your argument in the way they like it. That's what persuasion is. So you need to think about outside yourself. So I know some of you guys are sitting there with a mom or a friend. Look at that person and say, if I wanted to get pizza right now, what would I need to say to this person to persuade them to get pizza? It's probably different motives for me to get pizza than you to get pizza. So what do I need to say so they'll get me what I want, but it will make it attractive to them? That's persuasion. Okay, so that's a good skill to know. And that's a lot of critical thinking in that, because you have to be able to read your person you're talking with. Collaboration, playing well with others. So a lot of people who are neurodiverse think that they don't play well with others or they like to be alone. Well, there's a difference between being able to collaborate with people and liking to work alone. So I think it's important that you recognize that even though you may have a low, what I call social battery, so the ability to sit and talk with people, work with people for hours upon hours, that might wear you out, where you just can't really keep going, like a long day at school or a long day at a family reunion where everybody's asking you questions. That's different than collaboration. And collaboration is just being able to communicate with people to get something accomplished. So that's an important thing. So even though you may prefer to work alone, you probably have some great collaboration skills. So you're able to maybe directly tell people what you want and what you need. You're able to dissect the problem and put it into succinct language. And that is a great skill for collaborating. Maybe you're a great communicator, so you can type up very detailed emails and talk to your peers. Those are great skills. So don't confuse collaboration with having to work with people all the time. It's just being able to share project ideas with people. Adaptability. Well, I think we've all learned a lot about adaptability with COVID-19. Many of you had to switch, I think all of us, from being in a classroom or being in a work setting into being at home. And you had to adapt to the way you learn, adapt to the way you managed your family and your friendships. So the entire society of the world has had to learn a lot of adaptation skills. And as much as there's so many bad things with COVID, that's actually an excellent skill to know. Because in a business setting, you never know when things are going to change. You never know when a client doesn't show up, client changes their mind. You never know if a meeting gets changed locations, your flight gets canceled when you're trying to fly to a meeting. You need to be able to adapt and make changes. So all those skills you've learned during COVID-19 are going to come in handy. And the next thing, number 5, is emotional intelligence. This is a little bit of what I talked about with persuasion, but emotional intelligence is the ability to read other people's emotions. So when you're talking to somebody and maybe you're black and white, you say things sometimes that may come off a little bit too direct, but you need to be able to pick up that possibly you did that. And that's a hard skill for many people. So being able to keep the other person's perspective in your sights while you're talking to them is huge. So this is something that you should practice all the time. There's a lot of great YouTube videos on emotional intelligence, but it's really taking the viewpoints of other people into your life and being able to make them feel comfortable too. And when you're talking with somebody, it's kind of like, if you don't like to be touched, this is the kind of the same thing for people who want you to emotionally understand them. You want people to know, don't touch me. They want you to know, talk softly to me. And so those are all kind of our languages, that way we function. And so emotional intelligence is being able to pick up and understand what the other person's, telling them. Don't touch me, or talk softly to me, or you're being too loud, by reading what their body's telling them. So those are some of the top soft skills. I know they're not easy, but they're important. So anything you can do to work on these, and also to highlight them in your resumes and in your LinkedIn profiles. So here's some examples. So how do you include soft skills in your resumes? Well, tuck them into bullets. You want the first word to relate to your soft skills. It's important. So instead of saying, I assisted with an annual company fundraiser, that's fine. But instead you say, collaborated in a group of 4 to plan and facilitate annual company fundraiser, raising over $1,500 for charity. You see there, I've added in collaboration, which is a soft skill, and it also is in general a keyword. I planned and I facilitated. I for charity. So I put in all these keywords in there in this sentence. So I made it a powerful sentence instead of just, I did this. So that's what you want to do with everything. So here's another one. I'm a Boy Scout leader. No, I trained and mentored 12 junior Boy Scouts in weekly meetings. That is telling me a heck of a lot more than a Boy Scout leader. So trained and mentored are 2 amazing skills. Junior Boy Scouts weekly, that means that you were predictable, you were reliable, and it tells a lot more about your personality. So even if you say, like, I'm an Eagle Scout, well, I'm an Eagle Scout and I did my project on blah, blah, blah. The more information you could give, and you use those action, soft skill words going into the sentence, the more powerful it's going to stand on its own. So I got these from themuse.com. So once again, that's on the website. But these are some great things they have in there where you can get different examples. And sometimes I just take things like this and I change out the words and I use them in my resumes or in my profile. So use what's out there. It's all really great. So now we're going to talk about hard skills. Hard skills are like the things you can do. So, like for me, research is my hard skill. I can research, but I also actually used to be a programmer. So I can do database programming. Those are hard skills. So we're going to go through the LinkedIn top 10 hard skills. So these are things that if you're looking to expand your knowledge, that you should know that there's a huge demand for jobs of people that could do these things. Or if there's a possibility where you have a interest in an area, that way you might want to try to figure out how you can get into this industry doing what you like. For example, my son loves video games, and loves creative writing. So he's decided to major in creative writing to write video game plots. So he took what he's good at into a growing industry and applied it. So that's how you kind of want to look at it. So blockchain is technology. I don't really want to get into explaining blockchain, but it's a pretty intense technology that people are using for security. So security infrastructure is really where the biggest growth is right now. So if there's anything you can do in that area, it's going to improve your ability to get hired. Cloud computing, so that would be Amazon Web Services or Azure by Microsoft. So learning any of those types of skills or how to use those systems, or even if it's just administering those different servers, those would be really helpful for you to build your resume. There's different parts of those things. So it's not all just the sitting in and doing the hardcore programming. There's a lot of maybe just designing the systems or even making user interfaces. For example, SharePoint server is part of a cloud system. And if you can learn to use SharePoint and create interfaces for companies, you have yourself a job there, because it's in the cloud, but it's making it user-friendly for people that are using it in companies. Analytical reasoning, there's so much data coming in from everywhere. And there needs to be people that can go through and make sense of all this data. So if you're a critical thinker, you're good with numbers, and you're very organized, analytical reasoning would be great. And once again, this isn't something that you can say that's you're a tech person or a math person. This is actually just being able to see patterns in data. Artificial intelligence, I think everybody knows what that is. User design. So that was a little bit I talked about with SharePoint, but if you like to draw, or you're good with spatial awareness, there's a lot of industries right now that have all this stuff going on in their systems, and they need somebody to make it look usable, to make it make sense. So if you're good at organizing things, or you're like drawing, you could take a couple of classes and see if this is something that interests you. But there's a huge demand for this. You know, I want to add to that too, there's a huge demand if you're doing design for accessibility. So a lot of websites right now are not accessible to people who are blind, low vision, deaf, dyslexic. So there's a huge demand to change websites. So if you can get into any of that accessibility space, there's a lot of opportunities there too for growth, for careers. So another hard skill is the business analytics. So, you know, it's being able, once again, to take data and get through it and see patterns. This is more of an applied analysis versus the other one, which was just raw data. This is saying, how do I take data and apply it towards a business problem? So if you like to kind of problem solve and critical think, this would be something to be really positive for you. Affiliate marketing. This is all about getting the ads out there on all the different platforms, making your ads show up on somebody who's looking at baby food, you show up diapers. You know, that's affiliate marketing. So there's a lot of need for people to figure out how to go about advertising their company across websites. So that's one job that, you know, if you're really good at going through websites and data and kind of looking at stuff, you could get a lot of jobs through that. Sales, you know, everybody's always selling something. There's a scientific computing, and then I want to move into video production. We are fortunate in Southern California to have a few companies, Exceptional Minds, and another one that are all about video production for individuals that are neurodiverse. So everything's going video. You're going to find that every site you go to, there's going to be some short 30-second to a minute and a half video on something. And as Cisco estimates here, that the videos will account for 82% of the global traffic on the internet. So that means everything you're going to go to is going to have a video to go with it. Like I was trying to clean my vacuum, and I took it apart, and I was trying to put it back together, and I was staring at it for a while. I just went on YouTube, and there was like a 2-minute video showing me how to put my vacuum cleaner back together. So somebody had to produce that, write that, and do that. It was a very big value to me, but those are all things that are going to need for all different areas of the world and all different industries. So now we're going to get more into you and talk about identifying and documenting your strengths. So this is when you're going to need your paper. And we're going to talk about something called mind mapping. So mind mapping is a really cool process. You might have known it, gosh, back in my day, it was called cluster diagramming. You know, it's got a lot of different things, but it's a way of just dumping information from your mind, then trying to make it all make sense, and then put it into usable buckets. Excuse me. So we're going to talk about mind mapping you. So that's something we're going to work through. I'm going to take you through a couple examples, and then we're going to see if somebody from the audience wants to go through mind mapping, and we'll do it all together. That's if someone's volunteers. So mind mapping is what we're going to do is you're going to put you at the center of the picture. So you're in the middle. Now you want to look at your skills, your abilities, your passions, and your experiences. And you're going to translate all these things into things you can put into your LinkedIn profile. So this is where it's going to get nitty gritty. So if you download it from the website, there was this mind map that I kind of gave you a link to. So if you don't have that, you can go ahead and just do it on a piece of paper. We're going to do one exercise. And I had a guy come in, and we were doing this with Microsoft, and his name was Andrew. And we said, Andrew, what do you like to do? He says, I like to build things. So we said, okay, that's a passion and a hobby. I like to build things. So we put that in a box over here. Passion, hobbies. I like to build things. What do you like to build? I like to build computers. Okay, how do you build computers? From scratch. From scratch, how? We just kept going and adding them on new trees and areas to these diagrams here. And we learned that Andrew can put a computer together from scratch. All the components, configure the operating system. He knows 5 different operating systems. He knows how to use Windows and everything else. So we took what he just told me is I like to build things into so many skills and abilities that are marketable. So what do you have that you say, I have a lady, we did this before, she says, I like to do some art. I said, well, what's that look like? Well, it ends up being that she builds custom planters and then paints them. And she gets like recycled wood and does all these things. And she pretty much was just telling me, well, I have nothing to put on my LinkedIn profile because all I can write is, I like to do art. No, you are a custom designer. You are somebody who's, can take commissions for projects. You should put pictures and pictures of your work on your LinkedIn profile. Those are things you've done. We had another lady who said, well, I write. And I said, well, what do you write? She said, well, I write stories. And I'm trying to write a book. And I said, you're an author. You can put there, you're an author. You're writing. You may not be a published author, but you're an author. So it lets people know more about you. And so she was able to go under her profile, talk about being an author. She talked about how this relates to her community service and job, where she was volunteering to teach kids to read and to reading to some daycare kids. She also was able to put on her LinkedIn profile some of her short stories so people could see her work. So see how powerful it is to take a little bit more expansion of what you think is something simple and make it into more. So I don't know if anybody wants us to mind map for them. So if you want to mind map, throw your name in the chat box. If not, who is there? Anybody? Come on, guys. Now I'm going to make somebody up. Okay, I'm going to share a whiteboard. No one wants to mind map? Can you guys all see the whiteboard? Because I can't see you guys anymore. I have 3 screens and I still can't see anybody. All right, there you guys are.
Well, do Kenny or Brianna want to do it? Kenny?
All right,
Sure.
Lex. Lex
Sure.
and Ken.
Yeah,
All right.
Judy, maybe I'll help them out too if you don't.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we have
What?
a volunteer.
We have 2, so we're going to do Kenny, then we're going to do Lex. Got it?
Okay.
Sorry. All right, so let's start here. Oops, and I apologize. I usually have my little pen I can write with, but it just looks really bad. So, Kenny. And I apologize now, but when you're looking at me, I can't type and I can't spell. All right, so Kenny, let's talk about something that you have a skill in.
Data analysis.
What does that mean?
You have a degree in accounting, you're
Oh, accounting,
in statistics, right?
Yeah.
statistics.
Can you turn off? Can you mute?
Yeah.
So data analysis, so accounting, statistics. What programs have you used for data analysis?
Well, Kenny,
Well, I've used QuickBooks,
Okay, QuickBooks. What else have you used?
Excel.
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Which one was the last one? SAS?
What else?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that last one.
Oh,
Ablos.
Aplos.
I thought
I thought I did.
Okay, so you told me data analysis. Now look at how much more detail we're building off of data analysis. You're an accountant, so these things are two different
I am muted.
resume items. So when somebody is looking for a job in accounting, you're not going to see data analysis much in the role title. So these are two distinct different skills that you have, even though they are a lot of overlapping. The language in resumes is completely different. So statistics, so did you ever use like SPSS for statistics?
Yes.
Okay, that is a huge skill for any kind of data scientist. So data analysis, you can look here at being a data scientist. And you can also look, I'm totally gonna run out of room here. So first thing he said was data analysis. The next thing he said is accountant. What I said is data analysis jobs and accountant jobs are two different things.
Right.
So even though there's a lot of overlapping skills, now you have two different careers you can go after, and you can type about experiences. So you could break into data analysis, and data analysis you could break into statistics. And then from statistics, you could talk about your knowledge and experience with SPSS, which is a statistical, I can't say that, software package. A lot of researchers and companies want people who are being able to use those. So you want to make sure you put SPSS and the full name of SPSS, which I have no idea what it is. You want to put accountant, accounting, QuickBooks. You want to, put adaptable, trying to think of a word. What's the word for really good at it, really comprehensive at something? Anybody?
Experience.
Experience doesn't tell me much. I'm in depth.
Comprehensive knowledge.
Yes, comprehensive knowledge or experience. Using QuickBooks for mid-sized companies, or as an accountant managing accounts receivable and accounts payables. I was an accountant for a mid-sized to large company responsible for budgeting $50 million. Do you see how many more details I'm getting into for these things?
Yeah.
And how much more they mean?
Tiffany,
So,
this is Kenny's thing. Can I ask your point about data analysis and accounting being two separate careers? I think is sort of at the heart of things. So should he concentrate on accounting or maybe do two profiles? Because really he's interested in data analysis, that's for sure, but his education and experience so far has really been in accounting. Wouldn't you agree, Kenny? Yeah.
So I would put all your experience in accounting in there. And then what you do is you talk about in your profile, and we'll talk about this a little bit more about how you have a desire to move industries from accounting into a data analysis, and how you have experience with SPSS and other things and want to expand, past accounting. So that's where you use all those boxes underneath your name and all this about me in LinkedIn, is to tell people where you want to go. So that's what I would do. I would definitely add all these skills in there, the data analysis and the accounting, but then I would have a really powerful statement there telling people where you want to go. I've been doing accounting, I've been successful at it, but I believe data analysis is something that I'm very passionate about. I like data scientist, or I like business analyst, whatever one it is, and then find out more about what those careers look like and find a job you like and use those keywords. Does that make sense?
So yeah, Tiffany, I wanted to mention something, and it was something that Jessica had mentioned. I think one thing that would be helpful for Kenny is to figure out what the job opportunities are for someone like himself in either accounting or in data analysis, to, what are the opportunities, so he can figure out which direction he should pack his boat to go. You know, which type of job would he be most likely to find an opportunity with, you know, he just graduated from college with his level of experience.
Okay, so if you're, can you put me on mute, Judy?
Sure.
I had to go on mute for some reason. Okay, so if you're a recent college graduate and your experience has been in accounting, most likely you're going to find people are going to want to see that you've been able to hold a professional job in accounting. If your passion isn't accounting though, and you want to use this background, you might be up to taking an entry-level job in data analysis instead of starting an accounting career and going in that path and then having to jump later if that's not really what you want to do. I mean,
you know, one thing is advanced accounting really is data analysis. So he's studying for the CPA exam, but, you know, really fields like auditing and things like that, in a sense, you know, are data analysis. But your point about concentrating on accounting, I think is right, but maybe mentioning that, you know, he has interest.
Yeah, because I mean, accounting isn't what accounting used to be.
Right.
I mean, I used to work for Arthur Andersen, and I was actually an IS auditor out of college.
Wow.
So I used to do it's all data.
Right.
And so, you know, if you can put your profile together and talk about your ability to analyze data with an accounting background and studying for the CPA, what you're showing me here is something really important, and I want everybody to get this. I have business experience, but I'm good with technology and data. Data is where everything's at, but I am an accountant, so that means I actually understand the data. So there are people that are really good at just data, but to actually be able to understand and tell you what the data means is so much more powerful and important. So that's the message you need to get across. Is I'm an accountant with some words for experience, passion, and applying accounting fundamentals to data analysis. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
Does that make sense? I mean, can you see that path going now where you're taking it all? I mean, it's powerful what you want to do, and it's so applicable to everything we just went on hard skills. So what I would probably recommend doing is going on every platform you can and looking up data analysis jobs and entry-level accounting jobs and see what's out there and start looking at those keywords, and you're going to find a job that might start looking more kind of like the mix, and then it will give you a chance to dive in to more detail and actually get your profile set up that way. I would also talk to your career counselors at your college, and they might know some of these things.
Well, he's graduated from college, so last year.
It doesn't matter. You're an alum.
Oh, it doesn't matter. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah. No, you're an alum. You can knock it on your door any minute, any minute you want. So, but I mean, even that, or you can do what we're going to talk about in a minute, which is an informational interview. And that's where you can talk to somebody who's in this space and find out how they got into it and what skills they had and how they marketed themselves. So we're going to talk about informational interviews in a minute, but that would be critical. So you got to do a little research.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
So what else besides data analysis? Tell me about some of your passions. What do you like to do in your free time, Kenny?
Gaming. Well, you like to game, right?
Yeah.
You like to travel.
Travel.
He takes a walk every day. He likes to exercise.
Okay, so you can
lived in Spain. He's been to Cuba. You know.
See, you need to put all this stuff on there. You know, international traveling is a passion of mine. I've traveled to 8 continents. It shows that you're worldly. It shows that you're comfortable in new environments. Did you learn any languages through those? You know, you want to think about that. So those are all things you could put in your profile. Did you do any community service associated with any of these things? So did you go to Colombia? I don't know, and help feed the hungry when you were there? Or, you know, you take things like that and start building in some of your volunteer profiles too. Oh, yeah,
Yes,
Toast,
community service is mainly in the U.S.
and that's fine
But,
too. But
another thing that I think is good is he's a member of Judy's Toastmasters Club, and he's joined another one, so he's gaining a lot of skills.
oh yeah,
there.
that you want to put under experiences, and we're going to get into those areas more. But you want to get those under experiences, and any kind of volunteer work you did too, you want to put in there.
Right.
You want to show you're well-rounded.
Right.
So the traveling is huge. And I'm assuming, because you're on this call, that you have some form of neurodiversity, and showing people that you like to get out and get everywhere else. And if you disclose that you're a neurodiverse, it's already breaking that mold that people have. And that's awesome, because that's really going to help break down some of those barriers for you, because you're like, I've traveled around, I do all these different things, I've been to all these countries, I'm on Toastmasters.
Well, one of the things he does, he's, I guess, assistant treasurer. What's his title? He helps the treasurer of the OCASG, of our group.
There you go. Then you call
What's
yourself
his title,
the,
Judy, would you say?
make one up. Assistant treasurer. Judy's trying to unmute herself.
You got it. I don't know. We can come up with someone, let's talk to Stephen.
Yeah, I
Junior,
think he's
junior accountant or assistant. Accounting is,
Yeah, all that needs to go in there in elaborate detail as possible. Okay. And if you're good at Excel, I'm assuming you're probably good at all Microsoft applications. So that's a big thing. So you want to put Microsoft Office, Microsoft 365. If any of you guys know how to do word processing and all that, those are the keywords you need to put in there. People need
Tiffany,
to know.
Yeah, I was going to say, as I listen to all these different skills that Kenny has, he would be a good auditor because he's comfortable communicating, which is an important skill. He's comfortable going different places, and he's got great analytical skills in accounting. So, that'd be an exciting job.
E&Y has a Autism at Work program, which I don't even know if that would apply to you, but
it would apply to him. Boy, we'd be interested.
I can talk to you. We can talk later, and I can send an introduction to the E&Y people. But they have a group that they do cohorts, and they're actually inclusive, where they're kind of in their own group, but they're happy. There's other, like Deloitte is an inclusive hire too. They don't have like a big effort like that, but they're really big on promoting like mental health and other things. So the big four now have really stepped up. But there's also smaller companies too. But yeah, so if we want to talk offline, I can see who I can introduce you to. But there's like JP Morgan Chase. They have an Autism at Work program. They've hired 160 people with autism worldwide in 42 different positions. So there's some great stuff happening.
Okay. Yeah.
So we went through those exercises. So where do we put our strengths on LinkedIn? Can you guys all see that right now? Okay. So this is kind of what we talked about. For example, we were talking about Kenny. So he's looking at changing jobs, maybe, or changing industries. So right here, you could talk to recruiters about your open to opportunities, what things you want to do different. Up here, you could talk about, I see a lot of people that will say, just say experienced accountant seeking opportunities in data analytics. They'll put that right underneath their name. So whenever they come up in a search, it's going to say their name, and then it's going to tell everybody what they're trying to do. So I see that a lot, and it's honest. It's the best, really good way to communicate. And then, you can do services. You can talk about the different things you do. Have data analytics here, or accounting here, Toastmasters, public speaking. Those are all services you could say you provide. So this is very powerful, because this is the first thing people are going to see. And this is actually the edit view. So this is where I get to edit my own profile. But this is pretty much what people see when they pull me up. So another thing is you can expand, and you have these sections where you have an about. Now this is so nice of LinkedIn to give us all this space to brag about ourselves. So what we want to put here is what doesn't fit into a clean category on a resume or within LinkedIn sections. So, you know, in Kenny's situation, this could be about his traveling. It could talk about his passion of data analytics and how it's moved from accounting to that, whatever it needs to do. You know, I talk about, for me, is how I like to pull community research and consulting all together. You know, I talk about why my research got started. A lot of times I tell a story. You know, stories are always remembered the most. So if you have a way you can tell a story, people are going to remember it more. I mean, it has to be concise and pretty brief, but I'll tell people that, you know, I was getting my MBA because I was bored at sitting at home with my kids and they didn't need me anymore. And while I was doing my capstone project, I decided to do an autism employment, and I found out there was an 85% unemployment rate for people with autism. I fell off my chair, mouth dropped to the ground, and said, hell no, that ain't okay. And I started on this quest with Grit and Flow. And that's just kind of my short story about saying how I got into my job and doing what I like. People get to see a little bit more about where I'm coming from and why I'm passionate about what I do. And that is all different things you can put in here. I also put some stuff about being on panels that I've been on, which didn't fit anywhere else. You know, so that's a good place to put in this about section, and you get a pretty good amount of room. Other part is when you have this add profile section. You know, we talked about the intro, which is here, about, we talked about right now. Then you can add work experience, education, licensed and certifications, and volunteer experiences. So you want to load this up, everything you can. Because a lot of times, if someone's searching for something, and say you all did Toastmasters, or I went to Chapman University, you went to Chapman University, they'll show up higher in your search pattern because you have something in connection. So that's what you want to do. The more stuff you can put on this profile, the more opportunities you have to connect with something, with somebody common. So that's why you want to dump everything on there. So any clubs you were in, even in college, you know, I was in a sorority, that helps me out. Use everything you can, because once again, it helps with the searching because people look for something they have in common with people. And then you can add skills. We're going to talk about that shortly. Accomplishments. For me, I did an Ironman, so I put that as my accomplishments because I think it tells a lot about my personality. You know, different languages you speak. So these are all sections you can add and keep adding to and refining. I would add sections, have somebody review it, make sure it makes sense before you add more. Always have somebody you trust to go through your LinkedIn profile before you get too comfortable with it. So you want to make sure you come across professional and also politically correct. So you want to make sure you're using the right frame of reference for languages that's appropriate now, which probably changes every day, but we do the best we can. So when you put things into words, now you want to use the keywords, use verbs and outcomes to show skills. So remember about our Boy Scout, we used verbs and we talked about outcomes. When we did, I organized fundraiser, I talked about the outcomes of that, which was I raised $1,500. Those are some examples we went over earlier, verbs and outcomes. Know how to speak to challenges as strengths. So there's another seminar we do, which is interviewing. It's actually all this research-based feedback on interviewing for people who are neurodiverse. But one thing we came back is we all have weaknesses, but how do you talk about your weaknesses as strengths? So we're going to go into a little bit of that in the next coming slide. We want to create a resume for each specific job and not be generic. You want to always update your profile on LinkedIn because people will get a notice saying you've updated something, more experience, another job. And stay active, like other people's things, they'll like yours back. Make nice comments, be very positive. Don't be critical of other people. It's not the place to be critical, it's a place to be thoughtful. So the next slide, this is actually a research study that came out, and what they're trying to do is take some of the core characteristics of being autistic and how you can kind of switch those into a strength-based approach. So this is for people who have a fixation on details or intense focus. So they could say they have a preference for spending time alone, interest in arcane or offbeat fields of knowledge, concentration for long periods of time on reading, experimenting, writing. They'd avoid wasting time in some activities that appeal to neurotypical people. For example, maybe having side conversations or being caught up in office gossip. Special interests could be channeled into productive hobbies or even careers. So, for example, my son was writing for fun. He actually is channeling that now into a career, or something you're really passionate about. Channel that into a career. So circumcised interest or things that people are really into are important, because if you can identify the things that you're passionate about and find a job that associates it with it, you're going to be more successful in your job, and you're going to want to excel at it and keep progressing at being better at it. So once again, it's that strengths-based approach. Sometimes when you're got a fixation on details, you can be systematic information processing, talk about having attention to detail, precise technical abilities, ability to notice small details of an idea, theory, number pattern, book, ability to perform repetitive tasks, commitment to quality and accuracy of work. So these are ways you could take your fixation on details, intense focus, which a lot of people don't quite understand all the time, and make it into strengths for a job. And some of them kind of sound, sometimes I don't like the way they put some of these, but if you take it with a grain of salt and realize what you're trying to say and how you're trying to make that powerful, I think these are really good guidance. So if you're cognitive and visual thinking, so you could say I have very high intelligence, good verbal skills, rich in vocabulary, your ability to absorb and retain large amounts of information, especially about topics of special interest, which you're trying to get a job doing, ability to think in visual images, self-motivated, independent learner, tendency to think outside the box and generate novel solutions to problems, may show a strong aptitude for a particular field or study or topic. We all kind of get stuck on those things we really like a lot, and your aptitude for that, you want to say, when I'm passionate about something, I know everything about it, and I'm passionate about getting this job, and I want to know everything about this job, that kind of stuff. And you could talk also to how that applies to maybe doing diversification in occupation. So how you can take maybe one skill of being able to visual think and apply it to many different jobs. So it makes you very versatile and adaptable, which are some of the other words we talked about using. So if you have some personality behavioral patterns, here's some ways we can kind of spin those. You have atypical, or I have unique humor. You're great at playing with language and creating puns. You have an enjoyment of sarcasm. It's just kind of putting it out there how you are, but it's making it as a strength. Like, this is just who I am. I have a great sense of humor. I have a really unique sense of humor. Tendency to speak the truth. I like to be really straightforward with people and honest. As much as we don't always do that correctly, there's a huge benefit for employers when somebody likes to speak the truth. And I think you need to make sure, if you're one of those individuals that don't like lying, like to say the truth, see things more in black and white, that you just let them know, because that is a really big benefit for a lot of employers. They want people who have that ability and don't get wishy-washy, don't make things up, and don't lie. Following rules is important, and a strong work ethic. So you might have some behavioral patterns, but these things can all be used as strengths. So additionally, you can have a desire to learn and to connect with people. So, you have a desire to want to learn social skills. You've been through rejection, so you're able to persevere. Belief in the best of everyone. You may be a little naive socially, but because you think positively of people, that's not a bad thing, and that could be used as a skill. You accept other people for their quirkiness or imperfections. You're a loyal friend. You're a great coworker because you're accepting other people. You're open-minded and tolerant, intensely responsive when made aware of an injustice. And these are all really amazing skills and amazing traits that you have. that you need to make sure you put on your resume. And a lot of people choose to take these things that are associated with autism and make them all negative, but we need to stop that. We're making them positive. These are your strengths. So take who you are and make them into strengths. Okay, now this is the part. So just don't say you're good at something, you need to prove it. So recently in the last about 6 months, LinkedIn provides these skills and endorsements. So you can actually add a skill and take a brief quiz. Sometimes they're about 15 questions. And if you get 70% right, you actually get a badge saying that you're good at that. And it could be anything from Python to Microsoft Word to, I mean, they have so many different skills you could take. So you just take the assessment and it pretty much verifies that you know that skill, and that just adds more power to your profile. And you don't always have to share those badges. It's kind of optional, but it's pretty cool. I like it. So you'll see under skills and endorsement section, you can take a skill quiz. So that will come up. You can add skills, and that's all on that one page I was showing you with the drop down where I had all the arrows pointing. You can add different skills. And then also here, and it's a little bit small and I apologize for that. It goes there, here's your assessments, and it's all your assessments you've taken that translate into skills. So once again, LinkedIn is giving you a lot of power to verify that you're good at things. And a lot of people will actually look for these types of certifications. So, because everybody can say stuff, but you're actually proving it in this way. Another thing I want to add in is, and it just left my mind as soon as I said that, I'll get back to it. So communicating and connecting is our next part. So, sorry, I'm almost out of time. I'm going to have to speed up a little bit. Communicating and connecting. So net etiquette. Lex, we're still going to get you, even if we got to stay after, okay? I promise. Net etiquette. Use proper language. Be precise when you talk. No emojicons, no text writing, no LOLs, none of that. You're all professional language. Always read your comments before you submit. Always read your comments out loud before you submit, because you never realize you missed a word and it comes out as something maybe rude or inappropriate. Tone down your language. No all caps. No yelling at people. You want to be humble and polite when you're speaking to people. Don't get too passionate about a topic. It is not a political place where you can start bashing people or their opinions. It's a place where you should be able to accept other people's opinions and possibly disagree in a nice way. But if you feel like you can't, don't respond, because that people can look at everything you've written in your profile and look at every way you've responded to something, and they can see that you're maybe not that nice of a person, or you have issues with control, and they'll pick up on that. Because if someone is vetting you on LinkedIn, they're going to go through every link and every connection you've made, every post you've done. And so your whole history is always there. You can delete some things, but not always. So just be careful. And once again, LinkedIn is for taking yourself seriously. You're a professional. So, don't talk about your dog's birthday unless you're in the dog business. So additional things, this is from LinkedIn, but be authentic, be a good person. Don't be fake when you're out there. When you're trying to connect with somebody, customize your requests. Be responsive when somebody reaches out to you and sends you a message. Research somebody before you reach out for something. We're going to talk about informal interviews in a second. Be targeted and personalized. When people ask you to introduce people, make sure you know who you're introducing, because that is your reputation out there. Short and sweet, proofread, give more than you take. So if someone's saying, liking your comments and saying nice things about what you're saying, you do it over 3 times to them. So that's giving more than you take. You're pushing people up more than you're having them push you up, okay? Because that's going to come back and pay you back. And always say thank you. When somebody says something nice to you, comments on one of your posts, say thank you, say I really appreciate your feedback. You want to just always be responding to show you're active. don't be shy. Ask for recommendations. These are some I have on my site. People, I asked them to recommend me. They wrote down some nice things about me that other people can read. It's like having a reference call, but right here on your LinkedIn profile. You could ask for a recommendation. There's actually you'll see it on your profile page, and you can just say, who do you want to ask? And it's one of my connections here is Nicole. She actually works with me. And I wrote her a little note saying, can you please, write a recommendation to me for employment for the autistic population? I really appreciate it. Let me know if you have questions. And Nicole could decide to or not do it. And then if Nicole writes a recommendation for me, I can choose to accept it or decline it. So I don't necessarily have to show it on my site, but it gives me the option to. But these could be really powerful. I would ask teachers, I would ask Toastmasters people, I would ask anybody who's been in a leadership position over you or that you've been a leader to write recommendations for you. So these sites are also on my website, but here's one of somebody asking to connect with somebody they don't know, but they want to get to know them. So I do this a lot with researchers, and I say, I was really impressed with the article you wrote on autism employment. I'm researching the similar things. I'd like to possibly connect so we can share, insight, and I can learn from you. So that's how you connect with people, and it makes a lasting impression. So I really want to make sure we get to this, and we're almost done, and then we're going to do Lex. But this is a cool thing to do. It's called asking for an informational interview. So you're not saying, hey, I want a job. You're saying, hi, I really like your industry, and I think that you'd be a good person. I could learn a lot about getting into the industry. Would you mind if we just have an informational interview? So you're calling them and you're asking them about, why do you like this job? What got you involved in this job? What do you like about this company? What kind of skill set did you have for getting into this? All those different things, those lead to you learning more about that company. And for Kenny, this really applies. So if you can find people that do like data analytics or auditing analytics, and ask them in a message on LinkedIn, I'm really interested in doing what you do. Would you be open for an informational interview so I can learn more about the journey you've taken to getting into this career? So down the line, when you've had a great informal interview and you tell a person, well, thank you. You know what? I think I'm going to go apply at your company because you really like it. You made it sound really great. They may or may not say, that's great. Send me your resume too, and I'll try to push it up the chain. They may not, but you've made a great connection at that point. And you've learned more about a job. And down the line, they may see you're looking for a job and say, hey, I remember talking to that guy, Kenny. He was really interested about this. I see he actually implemented something I recommended. Well, I should probably, stay in contact and see if he wants to maybe come work over here. Those things all grow in their own, way. So those informal interviews are really important when you're trying to figure out where you fit and maybe what would be the right size company to go to, or like I said, how somebody got to a job. So this site is on mine and on the tools. So these are informational interview questions recommended by the UC Berkeley's Career Center. So once again, all these are on the gritandflow.com/tools, and these will allow you to kind of set up your interview before you call them, and make sure you understand what you want to get out of it. So have some goals and objectives, have a beginning and end, and try to respect their time when you do the informational interviews. So here's those resources. Once again, they're on the Grit and Flow site. So if you have your LinkedIn profile, I would love for you to find me and connect with me and send me a message asking me to connect. I do try to post information that will help job seekers. And if I find any jobs out there, I put things out there. There's a lot going on in the neurodiverse and differently abled community, so we try to keep that out there. So I would love for you to connect. So when you guys do that, and if you would like to stay online, please do. I'm going to type my email in here. If anybody wants to connect one-on-one and just kind of follow up on any of this, that's my email. And then you're free to jump off because I'm going to help Lex, or you can go ahead and stay with us with Lex to talk about his mind mapping. So that's up to you. I don't know if you want to say anything, Judy, while I change screens.
I do. I just want to, well, first of all, I wanted to thank Tiffany. It was a great job, Tiffany. Thank you so much. It was well beyond what I had hoped for. So thank you very much. I also wanted to mention that we had done a webinar on, thanks Ken, we had done a webinar on autism at work in April, and that recording's available. So you, and has Tiffany and as well as a number of other people. So if you haven't seen that, you may want to. I also wanted to mention that we set up an OC Autism at Work group. I'll put it in the chat room. Which when you join, you may want to join that group. And my dream is that not only will we get other people on the spectrum to join, so you'd be kind of a place where people who are looking for people like you can come and find things, but also the parents would join. So if you're looking for someone to do an informational interview in accounting at a insurance company, we have Stephen Henry, who's head of finance for United Healthcare. So you'll be able to find people within our group that will be able to be accessible to you. And Tiffany didn't mention this, but the LinkedIn kind of gives you it's like 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon. You have visibility into people.
You have to know what that means.
Yeah. But you have people that are connected to other people, so you, like a tree, so you can kind of see other folks that are connected to us. So I'm connected to probably about 1,000 people. So anyway, but my dream is that not only will this be this OC Autism at Work group have a number of people involved, but it will also have companies participate as well, such as Tiffany joined and Jessica joined. A number of the companies that we're working with joined, and that'll give us accessibility to maybe posting jobs and stuff. So I want to encourage everyone to join that, and I'm going to let Tiffany work with Lex here. And thank you everybody for participating. And as I mentioned, this was recorded, so I'll have the recording available maybe later tomorrow. And thanks again, Tiffany.
My pleasure. And welcome to stay on and work with Lex and I, or jump off.